Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Chia. This week's story is about coming out, a rejection that shatters lives, and a teen who's learned that sometimes family is a lie. Let's dive in. I was 14 when my life imploded for the 7th time, and that was just within the last 10 years. I'm Ulysses Timothy Henderson. I live in Denver and its suburbs. My dad was an English professor. He named me after the book he wrote his thesis on. Wish I could remember him, or Mom. I go by Yuli to my friends, if I had any. My caseworker says I should be positive, so, when I have some, I guess. My name rhymes with Julie. I've been teased about that my whole life. From school to even more schools. 7 so far. I've been living with the Thompsons for a year. I dared to think they might be my forever family. They talked about adopting me, about taking me to Disneyland. Then I made the biggest mistake of my life. The Thompsons had younger kids. No big deal. They had high morals, demanded perfection, seemed loving. Until I told them I was gay, and that I had a crush on a guy at school. I overheard them that night. I don't want him here, not now. He's damaged, worse than I thought, Mrs. Thompson said. That's me, damaged goods. The next day, CPS picked me up. Family number 8, school number 8. Turns out they only wanted a little kid. Someone they could mold, not some angsty teenager. I was out. Implosion number 8. Didn't even unpack my 3 shirts. You'd think I'd get used to it. CPS showing up, another home, another school. Family number 9, school number 9. I didn't tell them I was gay. I played the brooding teen nobody liked. Their oldest kid was a bully. Wouldn't stop picking on me until I hit him, broke his nose. They pressed charges. I got community service. Implosion number 9. Implosion number 10 wasn't my fault, and I refused to talk about it. I wasn't at school number 10 for very long either. Just before I turned 16, June 24th, my caseworker dropped me off at family number 11 and school number 11, the Mortons. Quick description: family of 4, no pets. Mr. and Mrs. Morton were normal. Cliff, the oldest, left for college in Michigan. Baseball player, engineering major, barely comes home. Barely met him once. They gave me his old room. Teresa is 6, 14 years younger than Cliff. And oops, baby. She had every toy known to man, but only plays with 3. A doll, a stuffed animal that used to be an elephant, I think, and a princess necklace. The Mortons lived in a nice house. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, living room, kitchen, back porch, 2-car garage, the usual. Typical middle class. I'd learned my lessons well. Don't share. Keep your head down. Keep a list of your previous families tucked in one shoe, emergency cash in the other. Your backpack is your life. Mine held 2 extra shirts, 4 pairs of boxer briefs, 3 pairs of socks, a light jacket, deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush, an old phone with a duct-taped charger, a Frisbee the Thompsons gave me back when life felt good, my first and only middle school report card with perfect grades, a worn notebook I used as a journal, an adoption brochure tucked inside its pages, a dog-eared National Geographic with an article about Santorini, lyrics to my favorite song folded inside the magazine, a couple of pens, an envelope with the only photo I had of my parents, a torn newspaper clipping about the car accident. The backpack never left my shoulder. Never, even in sleep, even in dreams. Most important rule: be the forgotten book, dog-eared, quietly surviving, lost on dusty shelves, not read, not remembered. It doesn't make noise, doesn't celebrate birthdays. I hadn't had one in at least a decade. Doesn't draw attention, no talking, no sharing. It says yes sir and yes ma'am, cleans its room, keeps its head down, does the dishes without a fuss. I'd learned that nothing lasts, especially family, the biggest lie ever created. Nobody noticed me. I felt safer that way. I'd been with the Mortons for 6 months, was a sophomore in high school. I even smiled on cue. They were one of the nice families. No hitting, no yelling. They paid me for making my bed, taking out the trash, doing dishes. They left the little lost book on the shelf. Never asked about my life. Never asked about who I liked. Never opened the cover. They didn't mind the backpack. I wasn't expecting anything from them, so I wasn't disappointed. Caseworker stopped by a couple of months in. "Are you happy?" she asked. "The Mortons are good people, so I'm happy to be here," I said. She made a few notes on her form. "Do you have your own space?" I nodded. Their son Cliff's old room, before he went to college. Then she looked at me, as if expecting something. "What does home feel like to you?" She frowned, her gaze becoming more intense. "I've never had one, so I wouldn't know," I mumbled, not meeting her gaze. Her frown deepened. I had my day to cook, Thursdays. Usually made cheesy noodles and Spam. Mr. Morton helped me get a part-time job, shelf stocker at Organic Groceries Market, Tuesdays through Saturdays, minimum wage. Got my first paycheck 2 weeks ago. The money's hidden in my backpack. We were sitting at the glass dinner table Thursday night before Christmas, which was the coming Monday. I'd just served my specialty cheesy noodles, fried Spam, and microwaved broccoli with cheese. I set a plate aside for Cliff, my foster brother. He was due to arrive tonight. 18-hour drive from Michigan. Christmas break. 2 weeks. We only found out 2 hours ago. Mrs. Morton had me vacuuming and dusting the moment I got home from work. Just outside the kitchen door, someone kicked snow off their shoes. Guess who walked in? Cliff. Large black suitcase, dusted with snow. A second pair of boots stomped. Guess which male model followed? Cinematic slow motion. Easy smile, burgundy hoodie, casually zipped, rubbing his hands to get the warmth flowing. Large blue suitcase, also snow-dusted. I broke my own rule about keeping my head down. "Hello, Porterhouse Rare," my libido exclaimed, zooming in with metaphorical binoculars. "Nope, I'm not gay," says the guy bug-eyeing eligible bachelor number 2. 4 years older than me, maybe 5. Coppery, wind-blown hair, hazel eyes, 3-day scruff, pale blue button-down shirt wrinkled from too much sitting, faded jeans, that confident walk people have when they haven't been bounced from home to home every year. I forced my eyes back to my plate. Cheesy noodles, Spam, safety. Did anyone notice me staring? Was I blushing? If they asked, I'd say he looked like someone I'd met. That's it. "Family, and the guy who moved into my old room," Cliff said, full frat boy swagger in action. "This is Philip, my roommate back at university." Mrs. Morton's quick glance at her husband said, "Not expected," but her smile smoothed it over. "Pleasure to meet all of you," Philip said. Then he looked at me. Are you, renting? Yuli, I inserted. Cliff snorted. I blushed. Yuli is our foster son, Mrs. Morton said softly, eyes glittering. We were about to celebrate his 6-month anniversary. He's been our angel in disguise. Does his own laundry, keeps his room clean, does the dishes, even made dinner tonight, all without being asked. Mr. Morton, sitting next to me, clapped me on the back. Yuli's been a lifesaver in the mornings. Gets the coffee going, breakfast started, all before 7 so he can head off to high school. Reliability is a good trait in a man. Trying to prove you're the better son? Cliff snorted. Again. What kind of name is that? You from Slovakia or something? I sat perfectly still. No, it's short for Ulysses, I mumbled, staring at my plate. I'm the foster kid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Cliff already knew that. I held my breath, clutched my hands in my lap. The Mortons won't want to keep an idiot around now. Hi, nice to meet you, Philip said, leaning forward to shake hands. He waited patiently while I untangled my fingers and reached out. I'm a sociology major with a minor in art, he said. Cliff promised to teach me how to snowboard. We don't have snow back in South Carolina. We're meeting some of the old gang, Cliff added, renting an Airbnb at Winter Park, spending a week snowboarding and hot tubbing. Philip will sleep in the guest room until we leave, okay? And that is when? Mrs. Morton asked. Christmas. We'll leave right after opening presents. Cliff kicked one last bit of snow off his shoe. I noticed the glance Mrs. Morton gave her husband. Her mouth firmed before she offered a generous smile. Any friend of our son's is welcome here. We'll need a few minutes to tidy the guest room. Winter Park was booked solid 6 months ago, Mr. Morton said. You remember my friend Ray? He has connections, Cliff replied, sliding into the seat next to Teresa. A cold certainty settled in my chest. Cliff would want his old room back. Philip would take the guest bed. Where do I sleep? My voice came out small, pathetic. Cliff dumped a second helping of cheesy noodles onto his plate. Simple. Philip gets the guest room. He's too tall otherwise. But your old room is Yuli's now, Mrs. Morton said gently. But I'm home now, Cliff said, and Philip needs the guest room. I knew the drill. Foster kids are temporary. We're supposed to be grateful for a roof and a dry place to sleep, especially when it's snowing. It will only take a second to move my stuff to the couch, I mumbled. Philip snapped his jaw shut, like he was seeing me for the first time. Couch? He whispered, a shadow crossing his face. Mr. and Mrs. Morton exchanged a look. Mr. Morton pursed his lips, thinking. Mrs. Morton opened her mouth to speak. But Cliff jumped in. Thanks, man. That's too cool of you, Julie. Yuli, Philip corrected, voice firm. That's not fair. I'll take the couch. You have the bed. I shrugged. It's okay. Just have to grab my backpack. No hassle. I scooped a big plop of cheesy noodles onto a plate and slid it to Philip. I'll be right back. He didn't notice the tremble in my hand. Thanks, Philip said, offering a genuine smile. Looks good. Yuli, you never finished your dinner, Mrs. Morton managed as I walked away. My backpack was always ready. 5 seconds to retrieve it from the closet, slung it over my shoulder. The only other things in the closet were Cliff's shirt and pants. Most still had tacks. As I approached the dining room, I heard quiet voices. Did you have to embarrass Yuli like that? Mrs. Morton said, low. He's never had his own space before. You don't get it, Mom. It's my room, my space. You had no right to give it away. Be respectful, she replied. Yuli's our guest. Your old room was the logical choice to give him, Mr. Morton added, scooping more broccoli. It's closer to the bathroom. It's warmer in winter. Besides, you haven't used it since you moved to Michigan." "Why doesn't Yuli decorate it, Mommy?" Teresa asked. Cliff leaned back, lips curling into a disbelieving smile. "You took my posters down? What about my trophies?" I stepped into the room, backpack on. They all looked up. "Cliff, your room is ready for you," I said. "Don't worry, the couch is fine. It's better than some of the places I've slept." Mrs. Morton's eyes narrowed. Philip stared at his plate, a faint pink tinting his cheeks. Teresa kept eating. Damn, oversharing. I just broke rule number 1. Don't share. "Sorry," I mumbled, not sure who I was apologizing to. Mr. Morton's mouth opened for a moment, then closed. The hard look in his eyes meant something. Good thing he didn't know I was gay. Otherwise I'd be sleeping in the alley, under cardboard, to keep the snow out. "See, Julie doesn't mind. Pass the ketchup," Cliff said, shoveling Spam into his mouth. Once he had the bottle, he drowned the cheesy noodles. I didn't think they were that bad. No one else complained. "His name is Yuli. Cliff, be respectful," Mr. Morton replied. "You gave him my room." "You should have called yesterday so we could get things ready," Mrs. Morton said. For dessert, we had stiff silence served with cream cheese chia pudding, blueberries and slivered almonds on top. Mrs. Morton had helped me make it earlier. It had been chilling since afternoon. Philip broke the silence, asked about the recipe. I cleared the table while the others talked, eager to hide in the sanctuary of the kitchen. Mrs. Morton joined me after finishing her pudding. As we did the dishes, one sentence cut through the noise of running water. "Couldn't wait to rent my room out," Cliff said. "Keep your voice down," Mr. Morton replied. Later that night, I sat on the couch, pillow in my arms, backpack on the floor beside me, staring at the dark Christmas tree, a symbol of the happy little lie called family. A documentary played on the flat screen, something about Atlantis and the Eye of the Sahara. I'd lived with 11 families, never fit in. This would be the same. Under the light of the lone lamp, I updated my journal. Small, crisp handwriting, the only thing in my life I had control over. I fell asleep. A couple hours later, something rustled in the kitchen. It woke me. Outside, 3 inches of snow had fallen. Across the street, the neighbors' Christmas lights blinked, in garish patterns muted by the fresh snow. My reflection in the window looked alone, a pale gray zombie, dark eyes whispering a secret guilt. I'm gay, and telling anyone means I'll be kicked out, a secret I have to hide to preserve any future I might have. Philip stepped out of the kitchen, plate of cold, cheesy noodles and Spam in hand. "Hey, Yuli," he said, "what you watching?" White tank, gray sweatpants, casual sexiness that woke parts of me that had been in a coma. His stride, confident, his eyes, alive. My chest ached. Would it be so wrong to say hi? To pretend I was normal? To get to know him? I imagined asking him to a movie, going for a walk, sitting on the porch drinking hot chocolate together. It was wrong. I stretched. "Show about Atlantis," I said. Philip sat on the arm of the sofa, forked a bite of noodles. "You're a good cook." "It's just cheesy noodles." Last time I made cup of noodles, the styrofoam melted in the microwave. Took me 5 minutes to clean up the mess, he said. My legs had gone numb. I shifted. My journal slipped off my lap, hit the floor with a slap, wide open to the pages about the Thompsons. An old adoption pamphlet slid out from the National Geographic. One of my 2 pens rolled to the side. I froze, my life on display. Philip set his plate on the coffee table, knelt, picked up my journal. With a glance, he read the page. The Thompsons called CPS because you were gay? My brain shut down. My throat went Sahara. Acid flooded my veins. I grabbed the book from him, closed it tight, didn't know what to say. Is that why you barely talk? He asked. I shoved the journal into my backpack, hands trembling, soul numb, the kind that comes right before the wrecking ball hits. I tried to zip my backpack shut. The old zipper got stuck. Philip glanced away, uncomfortable. Does anybody know? My mouth betrayed me. No. Tone low, shaky, barely carried the few feet between us. Not your friends? Anybody at school? Something broke inside me. It's not worth making friends. Nobody keeps me for very long. I looked away, at the dark ornaments on the tree, the presents lost in shadow, the lie that was family. The familiar ache burned in my chest. Tears wouldn't come, hadn't for years. They were pointless anyway. Family is a lie. I'm begging you, don't tell anyone, please, I whispered. My plea sounded pathetic, like when I begged the Thompsons to keep me, promised anything. They sent me away anyway. Philip took a slow breath, settled into the seat beside me, close but not crowding. When was the last time you trusted someone? His voice low, matching my cadence, like heat tuned into my frequency. I almost said, Mrs. Thompson, then remembered her calling me damaged, CPS showing up the next day. I swallowed that thought, let it sink like a stone. Can't afford to, I muttered, eyes fixed on the frayed seam of my backpack. You're taking a chance with me, Philip said, gently echoing my words. I didn't answer, just held my backpack tighter, like it was the last piece of me that hadn't been cataloged or judged. Philip reached for a cushion, faded reindeer stitched across the front, held it in his laps, fingers tracing the antlers like they spelled something out. You can trust me, he said, voice soft, tone syncing with mine. His eyes flicked toward me, wide, open, carrying something I couldn't name but felt anyway. You don't have to be scared of me, he added, but I see you. I see you. 20, maybe 30 times I'd heard that line. Caseworkers, social workers, a few foster moms with good intentions and bad timing. It was always the opener, like a script they'd memorized in training. I fiddled with the zipper, metal teeth catching under my thumb. The second biggest lie in the world? Trust me. Philip swallowed, took a bite of Spam. Your backpack, that's everything important to you. Why don't you show me what's in there? More statement than question. I couldn't meet his gaze. They wouldn't mean anything to you. He placed his plate on the coffee table, stood up, went into the kitchen, returned with a bundle of candy cane Christmas fudge. Mrs. Morton made it before she went to bed, he said. I'm sure she won't mind if we sample a couple pieces. Have one. I held my backpack like a shield, guarding it. It's just clothes and stuff, nothing important. It's your life, he said, dim light reflected in his eyes. his voice soft, matching mine, eyes moist, like he might cry. "Of course it's important," he whispered. "Like I said," I replied, clutching my backpack tighter. "Why would you even want to get to know me? I'm—" The sentence trailed off, touched the core of the pain. Philip took my hand, looked deep into my eyes. "Finish the sentence." I shook my head slightly, past the fudge. "Finish the sentence, Yuli." His voice firm. My heart pounded. Why did I even speak? I looked away from his dark eyes, dared him to deny the truth. "I'm damaged goods," I said. "No one wants me, and I don't blame them." He held out the fudge, offered me a piece. "How many homes have you been in?" A neutral topic. 11, including this one. We talked way too late. The first time I'd opened up in years. The first time someone let me talk who wasn't a caseworker or a therapist. I didn't dare call Philip a friend. He'd be gone in a few days, just like everybody else, just like the Thompsons, the Talbots, all the other families. Family was a lie. Trust was a lie. "The Mortons like you," Philip said. "I think you should tell them." The new lie. "No, they wouldn't," my voice barely audible, breaking like the tears that threatened to fall. "The Mortons would dump me back to social services just like the Thompsons did. And because of my age, I'd end up in a group home or on the streets. No family wants a 16-year-old kid dumped on them. This is my last chance. I'm not going to ruin it." "So you do everything you can so they won't throw you away?" His voice soft. A tear slid down his cheek, a hammer striking the walls around my heart. And something shattered. "Throw you away." The phrase echoed in my head, over and over. Bouncing off the walls, I survived inside, screaming, a new voice that was the same voice I'd lived with all my life. Yesterday's trash, thrown away 10 times, once for each family that tossed me out. And now I was waiting in the 11th family's trash can. Somebody would take me out to the curb. CPS would collect me. Throw you away. "Let me help," Philip said, his voice gentle, slipping past the walls I'd built to keep the world at a distance. His words. A combat knife shoved into my lungs. Emotion screwed up my face. Heat flushed through my body. The tears. Damn tears. Unwanted, unstoppable, quiet sobs with nowhere left to hide. The violent ache of desolation, of loneliness. Throw you away. Nothing more than somebody's garbage. The lone piece of fudge melted in my fingers. Peppermint and chocolate, sharp on my tongue. Messy. I clutched my backpack tighter. Leather base rough. Smooth sides worn thin. Stained with years of abuse. Philip was 4 years older, a stranger I'd never see again, and I couldn't dam the emotions bleeding out of me. He held me. I tried to pull away. He shushed me, held me tighter, until I silently shattered, gave in to the pain, the agony stabbing through my heart like a blade I couldn't pull free. A physical force surged out of me, gouging through every barrier I'd built. Chocolate stained both of us, the dark blood of my soul bleeding. Maybe I broke down because Philip couldn't send me away. Maybe I trusted him. Maybe the pain refused to be denied. Maybe living hurt too damn much. For the first time in my life, the decimation tore into my soul, chopping, grinding. Philip didn't turn away, the chocolate smearing between us. "Let me go," broke free from my lips. A croak polluted by anger, hatred, loathing, and fear, all directed at myself. It was late. I should sleep. I'd need to help with breakfast, help with chores. I can't be a burden. I have to keep the Mortons happy. I don't want to be kicked out again. Throw you away. Throw you away. Exhaustion finally hit. Philip held me, his words calming, his voice soothing. I didn't know when I fell asleep, but I remember his arms gently carrying me to a bed, tucking a blanket around me. "You're among family, Yuli. Everything will work out," he whispered. As the door closed, a female voice whispered, "Mrs. Morton's. Is he all right?" Philip's voice was tender, a little sad. "No." The morning after, I woke the next morning, terrified, lying in a bed, in a room, warm under a cheerful blue comforter. A painting of a sunrise over an old-fashioned ship hung on beige walls. Cliff's old room. Where was Cliff? How did they get him out of here? He'll be mad later. The ghost of Christmas past echoed in my head. Throw you away. Throw you away. Was this my last day? I was still dressed in yesterday's clothes. Not unusual. I always slept ready to run. It was early. The family still slept. Remembering last night, I hated myself. I had broken down, confessed what no one had known, what I was scared to face. I was gay. What if the Mortons had heard? What if Philip told them? I reached for my backpack. Where was my backpack? Not here. Where were my damn shoes? A slow-burning panic simmered inside. I checked the closet. Empty. Not even Cliff's clothes were there, just empty hangers, a space waiting to be filled. The Mortons had given me a couple of shirts and pants when I moved in. Those hung there, in the closet. They could stay there. I didn't want the Mortons saying I stole something. Didn't want to be reported. Had they heard my confession last night? Would CPS haul me away today? 3 days before Christmas? I straightened the room, made it look like I'd never been there, returned to the living room. Philip lay on the couch, arm over his eyes, not moving. My backpack sat next to the couch, fastened tight, my shoes lined up beside it. He'd put everything back. Notebook, pen, adoption pamphlet. Had he seen anything else? An invitation to run, or at least go to school. Today was the last day before Christmas break. CPS could find me there as easily as here. I retrieved my pack and shoes, rummaged through the kitchen. Grape nuts, almond milk, bowl, spoon. Started the coffee. Lined a baking dish with frozen cinnamon rolls. Set them in the oven to rise. Ate breakfast. Emptied the dishwasher. Scrubbed my dishes. I snuck out. 30 minutes early, I sat in the Commons, pulled out my journal. Somebody had written in it, "Yuli, thank you for trusting me. My first year at college, I went broke because I partied too much, couldn't pay rent, tuition, life, got kicked out of everything. Dad was furious, refused to give me any more money. My family abandoned me. Lived on the streets for 6 months until I found a job. A local church helped me find an apartment. That was 6 months ago. I'm back in school. My life isn't the same as yours, but I understand your pain. I've been there. We have a lot in common. You have the same look in your eyes that I had. You ever need to talk, even about stupid stuff like boyfriend problems or movies or boy bands, call me, even if it's 3 a.m. Philip." It had his phone number, and a pride flag sticker. P.S. Call me as soon as you read this so I can get your number. Philip had been in my backpack, seen my life, seen what was sacred. My breath became shallow. Had he found my money? My only picture of my parents? I searched through the backpack, found the money tucked inside the magazine, found the photo. Safe. My only connection to the past. Safe. I relaxed until my hand found something odd. 3 somethings. A plastic container of cheesy noodles, a smaller one of candy cane fudge, a white plastic spoon. My eyes darted around, breath quickened, palms sweaty. Had anyone noticed? I never packed lunch. No one had ever packed one for me. What if the Mortons thought I stole food? Or their containers? Theft had caused implosion number 6. The Talbots thought I stole a 100-year-old peace dollar. I hadn't. They didn't believe me. CPS found me a new family, the Thompsons. Later, my caseworker told me the Talbots found it in their baby's crib, a toy the kid wouldn't let go. I pulled out my flip phone. Burner, actually. Pay-as-you-go minutes. Texted Philip's number. Hi, this is Yuli. Thank you for the fudge. It sounded dorky. I tried to think of something cooler to say. First bell rang. I hit send, shoved the phone into my backpack. Toward the end of second period, just before lunch, my teacher received a green note. Report to the vice principal's office. The one in charge of discipline. The quiet way of saying, you're in trouble. Detention, suspension, or worse. I forced a slow breath. CPS had arrived. She handed me the note, crinkled, dry, covered in cold efficiency. Report to the office. My shoulders tightened, so did my throat. I made sure I had my backpack. Left the classroom. Kids twittered behind me. Somebody's in trouble. Who is he? That's the transfer kid. What did he do? All eyes on me. I didn't know their names. I'd never been called to the office in my life. The Mortons had heard me last night. Made the call. Maybe Philip had narked. Why didn't I keep my mouth shut? Implosion number 11 waited. Philip had set me up, planted stolen food in my backpack. I was about to be kicked out. I'd only been here 6 months. I'd go to a youth home or the streets, a new high school. How would I pay fees? What about my job? Who would take a 16-year-old foster kid at Christmas? Good thing I had my backpack on me. It had my life. What else could I do? I could run, but where? I looked out the window. Snow-covered grounds, icy parking lot, a cluster of students huddled around a car, drinking coffee. The steam rising from their cups. The glass radiated cold. By the main doors, a couple of cars I didn't recognize, and a van that matched the CPS van that had brought me to the Mortons. The strap was cold, like the glass, like the air outside, like the moment CPS says it's not your fault, just you didn't fit. And I was trapped in the van. It was 2 years ago. The van smelled of old perfume, the lilac kind your grandmother wore on holidays. Then the caseworker closed the van door with a practiced smile, sealing me into the chill. The vans were always cold. I stared out the window at the last time I'd ever see the Thompson house. The family I thought was forever. Another lie. They didn't want me around. The van door, metal, solid, a block of Arctic granite, cutting off everything I tried to hold on to. Winter hadn't fully hit, not yet. And I was back in the present. Tonight, The weathercaster predicted 10 inches of snow. Bad night to sleep outside. Family is a lie. What did I expect? At least in a group home I'd be warm. There are worse ways to eat than microwave dinners and cup of noodles. Yulie Henderson to see the vice principal, I said, and laid the green note on the office counter. The office smelled like a pine candle, a blinking Christmas tree in the back, an angel not quite falling off its top. Glittery snowflakes hung from the ceiling. A lady in a green sweater sat nearby. Might be my new caseworker. "She's expecting you, Yulie," one of the secretaries said, but she didn't look up. My stomach knotted into a cinder block. Getting called to the vice principal's office is never good. I forced my hand to relax on the backpack strap. Swallowed. Courage failed me. My knees shook. I walked into her office. The same cold temperature as a CPS van, but with an educational poster on the wall and a copy of the bell schedule on the door. 2 people were there. The vice principal, smiling. Mrs. Morton, equally cheerful. They were talking about rock climbing? Whatever. At least my foster mom had the courage to tell me directly. I wasn't a decent fit for her family. The biggest lie in the world is family. I took a seat, stared at my shoes, at the ketchup stain on the toe, waiting, quiet, for the axe to drop, for CPS to haul me away. "Yulie," the vice principal began, "did you know Janice and I went to high school together?" No, ma'am. What did you want to see me about?" "It's the beginning of Christmas break," Mrs. Morton said, "so I'm taking my family out to lunch." Mental whiplash nearly dislocated my neck. "What? Where's CPS?" A shadow crossed her eyes, then vanished. "Understanding, maybe?" "They aren't invited," she replied. For a moment, something sad lingered in her smile, a touch slow to reform. They chatted about old times. The vice principal received a text. "Duty calls. Have a fun lunch. We'll see you after the holidays, Yulie." Mind numb, I followed Mrs. Morton out to their minivan. Philip, Teresa, and Cliff sat in the back. The passenger seat was reserved for me. Teresa held a Ziploc bag of gummy bears, their fruity scent strong. Philip's breath smelled of mint mouthwash. The cab smelled faintly of popcorn. The leather seat was warm, not from a body, from a seat warmer. It felt good after the Arctic air outside. "Hand me your backpack," Cliff said, reaching out. "I'll throw it in the back. You can pick it up later." Philip cleared his throat. "I think Yulie should hang on to it for now." "Why are you protecting him?" Cliff muttered. "I'm in the guest room and you're on the couch." Mrs. Morton tapped the steering wheel. "Give it up, Cliff. We talked about this." "It's my room," Cliff snapped, "and you rent it the moment I move out to a guy who doesn't shower?" I slunk lower in my seat. The vanilla air freshener swung back and forth. I washed my clothes, brushed my teeth, always wore deodorant. Even my backpack smelled like Phoenix Axe. Philip elbowed Cliff. "Stop acting entitled." "Does that mean rude?" Teresa asked, biting the head off a gummy bear. "Because Yulie helps me with math, and I know what Mommy and Daddy are getting him for Christmas." I peeked. "You be quiet about that, young lady," Mrs. Morton scolded, but her mouth worked into a mischievous grin. "Don't give me anything," I said softly. "I can't afford to buy stuff for you guys." "Don't waste the money, Mom," Cliff snarked. "He'll be gone next week, and I'll get my room back." "Which you won't be here to use," Philip quipped. "I smell something spoiled." Nobody responded to my protest. Maybe nobody heard. The drone of tires on salted roads, the rhythmic thrum of wiper blades. Light snow whisked from the windshield. Cliff broke the silence. "It's my room." "Key word, Cliff. You moved out," Mrs. Morton replied, her voice cold. She glared in the rearview mirror before glancing at me. Yuli, have you been to Casa di Pasta? They have the best garlic bread in Denver. No, ma'am. Casa di Pasta sat in a strip mall packed with Christmas shoppers and diners. Low-budget Italian, free breadsticks with every meal. Jingle bells jangled around us. Screaming kids, the air smelled of garlic. I ordered pasta with mushroom marinara, relished the tang of an almost forgotten pleasure. Parmesan cheese. My backpack stayed firmly on my back. Cliff talked nonstop. His dates, his classes, his job at a computer firm as a data input grunt. I tried to pay for my lunch. Mrs. Morton wouldn't let me. Instead, she gave me some money, told me to take Teresa shopping. Almost as an afterthought, Philip, why don't you go with them? Keep Teresa from spending too much. Her twinkling eyes didn't fool me. Get the foster kid out of the way so she could talk to her son privately about me. It gave me time with Philip, though. Not exactly a date, especially not in a crowded toy store filled with more shoppers than toys. Teresa wandered ahead to look at dolls. Philip quietly asked, "You doing okay?" It sounded like he meant it, not just making conversation. I responded with the third most common lie in the world. "I'm fine." "Check your phone," Philip said, glanced at me, then glanced away. I searched my backpack, found the old flip phone, opened it. A text from Philip. "I like the person you are. He's a nice guy and fun to talk to. It's time you liked him too." I looked up at Philip, not sure what I was supposed to do. "Why don't you let me carry that for a while?" Philip asked, and slugged my backpack over his shoulder. He carried it until we returned to Mrs. Morton and Cliff. Cliff remained silent, but looked at me differently, like someone with a new pair of glasses. Epilogue. Christmas morning. We sat in the living room, tree blazing with lights, peppermint-scented candles casting their warm glow. Breakfast would be late today. I couldn't have eaten anyway, too nervous. I'd barely eaten last night, stayed tucked in the shadows, quietly watching some Christmas video, while the others drank hard cider. Teresa and I had regular cider. I'd created presents the best I could from the little money I had left. Cheap mugs, a packet of hot chocolate, a candy cane, a coupon for a chore. For Mr. Morton, help shoveling the driveway. For Mrs. Morton, vacuuming the house. For Teresa, baking cookies together. For Cliff and Philip, doing their laundry when they got back from Winter Park. He rushed to my face as I handed out the tiny gifts. Cheap mugs, candy canes, chore coupons. They'd given me a couple of shirts, a new pair of jeans, a new backpack. No presents remained, but they stared at me. Mr. Morton and Cliff stood up, returned with an electric bike, glossy blue, red bow, a name tag, "Merry Christmas, Yuli. Love, Santa." Teresa squealed, Philip nodded, Cliff shook his head. "You get my room, and you get a bike," he said, a little sarcastic, but it sounded like teasing. "Thanks," I mumbled, heart nearly stopping. I got up, ran a finger along the bike's glossy surface. A Nacto Camel 250, instruction manual dangling from a zip tie under the handlebars. My soul lightened, hope breaking over the horizon. "Should make it easier to get to school and work," Mr. Morton said. Maybe the Mortons would let me stay? I dared to breathe. Shoulders sagged. Tears burned in my eyes. Had I found a home? Maybe family isn't a lie? "We want you to stick around," Mrs. Morton said, wiping an eye. "You're one of us." Suddenly, everyone held a phone, all pointed at me. What's going on? Were they expecting me to get on the bike? "It's beautiful," I stammered, straddled it, placed my hands on the handlebars, ran a finger along the cool surface. The Mortons exchanged glances. Mrs. Morton reached into the couch cushions, pulled out an envelope, handed it to Teresa. She walked across the wrapping paper-cluttered room, mouth open in a huge smile. Their eyes locked onto me, phones superglued to their hands. Teresa giggled. Mr. Morton smiled so wide I wondered how his teeth stayed in. I took the envelope, opened it. Legal papers. A petition for the adoption of Ulysses Timothy Henderson by Cameron and Janice Morton. I flipped through the pages, all filled out, except the last one, the adoptee signature page. It needed my signature. Teresa started singing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." The others joined in. I attempted a smile, brave defiance against the pain. My world collapsed. I closed my eyes, wallowed in the darkness, shoulders scrunched, neck turned to granite. Emotion flooded my face, horror washed through my soul, rotting everything it touched. Not again. It was the Thompsons all over again, the love, the acceptance, then the truth, the rejection. It was me hitting my stupid foster brother years ago, getting kicked out. My life, one rejection after another, implosion number 11. "Yuli?" Philip asked, concern in his voice. The best Christmas of my life just became the worst day of my life. The sob grew inside me, a rabid dog clawing its way out. They deserved to know the truth, deserved to know why the Thompsons kicked me out. The Mortons would too, but I couldn't lie, not to them. They'd been so good to me, gave me my own room. "Sit down, Yuli," Philip said, getting up. "Breathe." The bike was nice, but it was time to face the music. I climbed off. It would have been nice to have a home, but the moment wouldn't survive. "What's wrong?" Cliff asked. Mrs. Morton stood, hesitated, took a step. "Yuli, we want you to be part of our family. We love you." Family is the first lie. Love, another one. My neck tensed into steel. My head began to ache next to the chair I'd been sitting in. My backpack. I picked it up, held it tight. My world, the only safe thing I had. My safe space. My backpack. I didn't want to tell the Mortons the truth, didn't want to face the rejection, not on Christmas. Christmas was a lie, too. I wasn't going to beg, wasn't going to plead. It wouldn't do any good anyway. My legs started shaking. In barely a whisper, I croaked, "I don't deserve love, or the bike, or anything. I'm gay." The phrase stilled the room, like a runaway cement truck had crashed through it. Mrs. Morton glanced at her husband. He nodded. They both left the room. They didn't even wait until tomorrow to call CPS. I had my backpack. My coat was by the door. Better to leave before the rejection destroys me. At least living in an alley wouldn't hurt anymore. Who was sobbing? Little light breaths, hiding. Sounded like a kid in a closet who didn't want to be found, knowing no one loves him, knowing rejection is just a matter of time. Teresa still held the envelope, looking inside it, at the papers. It's not her crying. It's not Cliff. He's got this dumb expression on his face. It's not Philip. His eyes are sad. He's walking toward me. Mr. and Mrs. Morton aren't even in the room. It must be me. Philip held me, prevented me from leaving. "They're just going to kick me out," I blubbered. "Now they know I'm damaged. Damaged good. That's what the Thompsons called me. They'll throw me away. I'm always thrown away. Yesterday's trash. Family is a lie." "He's a psycho," Cliff said. "No, Philip said softly. He's been abandoned too many times. Yuli needs food, not sugary stuff. See what you can find. The Mortons entered a moment later, carrying a manila folder. The label read, Case File, U. Henderson, and a 10-digit number. Mrs. Morton took my hand, led me to the dining room table, pulled out a chair. I sat down. Without speaking, she opened the file. My life, details about my parents, every home I'd been in, psych evaluations, abandonment issues, complex PTSD. She stopped on the page about the Thompsons, tapping her thumb on a paragraph. Reason for rejection. Yuli confessed a same-sex attraction to someone at school. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson expressed discomfort and requested a new placement. Upon further evaluation, the Thompsons were no longer considered suitable foster parents. Mrs. Morton laid her hand on mine. We knew before we even met you, she said softly. We also knew that each person must find acceptance on their own terms. We gave you space to discover who you are. And now? I asked. We're family, she replied, her eyes moist. Cliff walked in with a peanut butter sandwich on a plate and set it down before me. You call that a tantrum, little bro? He said, grinning. I need to give you some lessons. Teresa brought the papers over and a pen. I signed them, and just like that, I had a family. Maybe, just maybe, family isn't a lie. Thank you for listening to Backpack Boy. I'm Gio, your author and narrator. This story is for anyone who's ever felt lost, unloved, or afraid to speak the truth. You are not alone. You are worthy of love, of home, of hope. On another note, I woke up to a surprise. My little stories have now been viewed 1.6 million times. That's humbling, and honestly, I wasn't expecting it, especially after my stroke. Thank you for your prayers, your healing energy, and the hope you gave me to heal. This channel has been my therapy, my lifeline, and my way back to life. I may never fully recover. Because of the stroke, heart issues, and blood clots, I now live with a chronic pneumothorax. Doctors speak for a permanently collapsed lung. But all of you have pulled me through the worst time of my life, and I'm grateful. So deeply grateful. You are all included in my prayers every single day, and I really mean it when I say, I love you. You have literally saved my life. Peace, my friends.